Hey guys, it's Matt. Thanks for downloading the Obsessive Viewer. This is our second episode in our planned trilogy of sitcom episodes. And I just wanted to give you a few notes before we get started that I reference Arrested Development and I mention a marathon on FX, but I refer to it as a Season 2 marathon. It's actually Season 1. And then also when I refer to the Community pilot that I bought off of PlayStation Network, it was actually for free. That's why I kind of got roped into buying the rest. And then finally, Tiny refers to a sports parody movie that Damon Wayans Jr. was in. It was actually the movie The Comebacks, and it wasn't Damon Wayans Jr. at all. I personally think that Tiny might be a bit of a racist, but that's up to you guys to judge. Of course, you guys can always find us on Twitter at Obsessive Tiny, Obsessive Viewer, and at I am Mike White. And then you can also like us on Facebook at The Obsessive Viewer, and you can follow the blog at obsessiveviewer.com. And of course, you can always email us with your ideas of what you want us to review, or any kind of comments or questions, anything you want us to cover maybe on the air at ovpodcast@gmail.com. Alright, I'll let you get to the episode, so hope you like it. Now the story of two guys who started a podcast and the one friend who had no choice but to call in from Evansville. It's the Obsessive Viewer. Welcome to the long-awaited sequel to the Obsessive Viewer's sitcom discussion. I'm Matt, and joining me today is Tiny and our friend Mike from Evansville.
And could you say that this is the crowd-funded movie version of our sitcom episode?
I had a Kickstarter going, and then it just didn't take off. So yeah, I'm not ashamed to admit that I've fronted most of the budget.
Yeah, we're back.
Yes, we are.
It was inspired by multiple internet petitions that were signed by all of our adoring fans.
Yeah.
Yes, and I know a thing or two about internet petitions. Which, by the way, my Wings petition had like 3,000 signatures. Not to brag or anything.
Nice.
Awesome.
I threw a link in the original episode notes. But anyway, I'm not going to talk about Wings anymore because I said my piece about that. I talked for like 15 minutes on Wings.
Nothing wrong with that.
You said you liked it, right? I can.
Yeah, it was okay. It had its moments. But today we're just going to talk about, sitcoms again. Yeah, I guess I'll get the ball rolling. Arrested Development. During the Emmy episode, we talked about our divisiveness of season 4, I guess, or how and how just we weren't really, some of us weren't really taken to season 4 that much. But there's no denying that seasons 1 through 3, especially 2, is just phenomenal television, phenomenal writing, comedy writing.
Totally.
Yeah, and Mike, you and I actually kind of bonded over Arrested Development freshman year. We
did. Well, we bonded after you introduced it to me. I got to give you full credit for it. I knew very little about it and watched maybe an episode after it won a couple of Emmys. And I was like, yeah, I'll give it a try. But it's kind of one of those shows, to its detriment, where you have to watch multiple shows and probably from the beginning, and I didn't.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until you let me borrow your DVDs that I fell in love. But we were like crazy glue bonded.
Oh yeah, like, and the thing that it's funny how I got into the show was this was back when FX was basically the playground to which Fox threw all of its reruns on.
Yeah.
They had I think it was like Labor Day or Memorial Day or something. They had just a marathon of season 2, and I was like, oh, Arrested Development. I don't know what this is. So I turned it on to the scene at the prison that I'll actually throw it into this episode. It's this one right here.
Just haven't had sex in a month.
You've been here 2 months.
It's hard to gauge time.
I'll bet.
And so I just thought that was just a brilliant line. And just from there, it was like I was just in love with the show, and I watched maybe 3 hours of that marathon, pretty much the majority of season 2. Then I bought the DVDs and all that. Tiny, how did you come across Arrested Development?
Well, I think Fox probably owes you some money because you got me into it too. I actually didn't get into it until after it was off the air. I borrowed all of your.
Really?
Yeah, I think I borrowed all your DVDs and watched it that way. And just I had a similar reaction to to how I feel about this newest season they've done. I had a similar reaction when I first watched it. I was like, I'm not sure if I like it. But then I watched it again and just absolutely loved it. It just took a while for it to sink in, I guess. It's because it's so unique. The show is just so unique that it almost requires that, in my opinion, because it's unlike anything it was unlike anything I'd ever seen. That's why it took me a while to get into it, and it affected me so much.
That's a good point, and I think maybe that might be part of the. Well, there are several factors for why it got canceled by Fox, but I think that's one of the things that, because like Mike said, you need to watch it from the beginning, and it's it's everything because it kind of interconnected. Yep. And what you said, Tiny, about having to rewatch it, I'm kind of hoping that that's how season 4 is for me, because it's a different format and all that. So I'm hoping that I connect to it more when I watch it a second time. I just don't know when I'll get around to it. But the show is just it's got a firm place in my heart that it's just great, and I don't think anything can really. I would be surprised if something can come and dethrone it, I guess, because I mean, just the amount of the intricacies of the jokes, the layered jokes in it are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. I fell in love with it immediately. Matt, you were like, you got to watch this, and I said okay, and I as soon as I watched it, I loved it. It was just amazing. Wow. And I watched it. I finished the first 2 seasons because that was all that was out.
Right.
And then I went back and just started them again, just from the top, because I had to see it.
Yep.
And
cool.
then then the 3rd season DVD release was a big deal, and I went out the day it came out and watched it in a matter of a day or 2.
Yeah. I was jaded that I just didn't watch it. I didn't pick up the 3rd season for at least a couple months because I was jaded because it'd been canceled and all that.
Yeah, that's the way to show your distaste, is to not buy.
Yeah.
I actually had a little point, like a question for Mike, because since Mike is such a big Seinfeld fan, I after I watched the show, I kind of had the opinion that Tobias Funke is probably like, I would say he's the best physical comedy character since Kramer on Seinfeld, because he wasn't just a physical joke character. He had a lot of hilarious lines as well, but I think physically he was the best since Kramer, in my opinion. And I was wondering if you had a similar opinion or felt differently, or.
Yeah, I don't know that I've thought of that, but I guess I can agree. I can't beat you, so I'm going to have to agree with you on it. Yeah.
His pratfall when
exactly.
I can't remember what the actual circumstances were of there being water on the floor, but it's just like Michael Cera comes in and he falls, and then he's like, oh, it was Lucille spilled her drink, and then Michael Cera comes in and he slips and falls, and then Michael's like, he's like, oh, sorry, your gangy had an accident, and then George Michael's like, oh, does that mean we're gonna have to put her in a home?
Yeah. That's so
and then Tobias comes and he just does a perfect fall, like his leg is up and everything, and then he's like, oh, was your mother here?
It was like it was like something out of a Looney Tunes cartoon.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
So
the line is what makes it. It was your mother.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
And he paints himself blue and he wears the cut off jeans. It's just great physical comedy that's because physical comedy can be so hokey and just it's so easy to dismiss because it seems easy, I guess. But I think when it's done well, it can be just as provocative as any other form of comedy, in my opinion. And I think David Cross absolutely nailed it.
Yeah,
I agree.
Definitely.
Oh yeah,
cool.
It's another one of those shows where I have trouble picking out a favorite episode, just because they're so. It's similar in that it's kind of this big story told in moments and things. So I don't know that I could pick a favorite episode, but
yeah, I don't think I can.
There's just a bunch of them that I love. So,
great,
nice,
good show.
Oh yeah, Tiny, do you have a favorite episode or anything? Or
I agree with Mike on that 100%. You can't pick one; they're all just too amazing.
Me too.
Yep.
What do you guys want? Mike, what about you? What's your next show?
So I'm gonna talk about another show that's in the 2000s, in a similar vein, at least for me, to Arrested Development, is Community.
Nice.
Oh yes,
and I know that you guys watch Community and love Community. Yep. And the first 3 seasons of that, definitely the first 2, 3 might have gotten a little weird, but I still love it. It's just brilliant television. Again,
absolutely,
big joke density, great characters. I love that they kind of tease romantic comedy toward the beginning, but then don't kind of bother with it. And the most important romance on the show is Troy and Abed.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
oh yeah.
So I'm very curious to see where they'll go now that Donald Glover's episodes are cut back and that Chevy Chase is gone. It's cool that Dan Harmon is back because season 4 was too different for me. It just lacked the je ne sais quoi. But we'll see.
Yep.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's troubling me about Donald Glover is that he's out after episode 5. Like, it's the first 5 episodes and he's gone.
Yeah.
So it's not even like he's going to kind of... It's going to be weird. I guess it'll be interesting for Abed's arc, but it's just going to... I'm nervous. I'm nervous about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I mean, the show is just... It's brilliant. I mean, I would say that Modern Warfare is one of the best episodes of TV I've ever seen.
Oh, hands down.
And that's definitely the one you show people to. It's the gateway episode.
Oh yeah, that's the episode that I got my brother into it.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's that episode alone is just perfect.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I watched the pilot. Like on NBC.com the day after it aired because I was excited. I was excited for the show.
Oh man, I watched the pilot a week before it aired because I bought it on the PlayStation Network store.
Wow!
I paid
Big Joel
like
McHale fan.
I was so pumped for that show. I was so excited. I saw the trailers and all that, and then I am afraid to calculate how much money I spent because I was like, oh, well, I bought the pilot. I might as well just buy each episode. So I bought each episode on PSN.
Nerd.
Yeah, it was, and it's a 24 episode season.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was out like 50. Oh wow!
Oh,
I think
man.
a few of the episodes were actually in HD.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was out like maybe $60 probably.
That's nuts.
Wow.
I was looking forward to it on the fact that Chevy Chase was going to be in it. That was kind of the draw for me, looking forward to a series with Chevy Chase because I love Chevy Chase.
Mm-hmm.
Funny enough, if you watch the show, I bet you'd agree that I don't know that he's anybody's favorite character.
No.
Right. He's still really funny though.
He is funny. He's very funny.
He is funny.
Totally.
Yeah.
And they allow him to do his Chevy Chase moments, his Chevy Chase humor. Like in the beginning, it might be the first. One of the first episodes where he's like trying to put some food on another type of food and can't figure out how to do it. Is it the ice cream one when he's doing the ice cream and the chocolate ice cream comes out, or is that in season 4?
That's in the
Is that in
I
the
don't
pilot?
know, actually. Well, in the pilot, he does. He's trying to get a hot dog in a bun or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And he just throws it in with the buns or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. There are those good moments with him in that.
Yeah.
And the first few seasons, he was really good.
Yeah.
Then go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, how do you guys feel about the character of Dean Pelton? Because he's become one of my favorite characters. Do you guys like him?
Yeah, I love him.
I think he is Dean credible.
Well done.
I love Jim Rash. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
And he's he kind of teeters between being like kind of a one note character and just brilliance, between being one note and brilliant.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, especially this last season, the Dan Harmon-less season was, I mean, just, it was like the Hunger Deans. What was that about?
That was stupid. But I did when Troy and Abed switched bodies, that's probably my favorite episode of the season.
Mine too.
When they switched bodies and he tried to switch bodies with Jeff.
That was so great.
His portrayal of Jeff was awesome.
It was so great. Yeah. And then add in Allison Bree's reaction.
Yeah, exactly.
That felt like vintage Community. That really did.
Yeah.
And I love the sentiment of Troy and Abed, like why they switched bodies. I mean, that was just great. I was played up so well.
It was you could throw that in with some Dan Harmon episodes and maybe not be able to tell that it's any different.
I agree completely.
Yeah. I loved the I can't remember when it started, but the storyline with and it's so subtle, but the story with the Dean and his obsession with Dalmatians.
I love the introduction of that because he's watching a video of the guy in the costume, and he's like, "I hope this doesn't awaken anything in me."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's yeah.
And it's weird because they don't. It's not really addressed. It's like an underlying story. Like it's not really talked about. It's just there, and it's so brilliant because they just show it to you. You're truly part of the audience. You're just watching it happen. There's no exposition there whatsoever. It's just there, and it's weird and hilarious. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that story.
I just hope that whatever happens, and when we look back at season 4, it doesn't ruin what comes before. I know I try really hard not to let those kinds of things happen. I'm a very firm believer in, this sequel doesn't make this movie awful, but when you have characters in a show and their story does not end at the end of season 2, at the end of season 3, at the end of season 4, and you're waiting for more, and then they drop the ball, that's hard to swallow because you want to see these characters you got to know early on. You want to see their stories end, and if they end in a way in the the 5th season that's coming up that's not good, then you can't help but be your viewings of the earlier seasons be affected by that.
I agree, and that's a good point that you make because I mean, there's no question that Dan Harmon, he's got like damage control to do first and foremost because just the stuff that happened in season 4 just didn't mesh. I assume just didn't mesh with his original vision. I can't imagine that it would mesh with his vision. And he's got to do that. He's got to handle exiting Troy.
Yep.
So he's got a lot on his plate as far as this goes. And they've said that they feel like season 5 could be the end. Like they're expecting it to be.
I also saw that he tweeted that he still wants to give us 6 seasons in a movie.
I would love that. I would absolutely love that.
Really?
Totally.
No? But would you like 2 more seasons of season 4?
No, because Dan Harmon's back, so I'm kind of hopeful that.
Okay. Would you like 2 more seasons without Chevy Chase and Donald Glover?
It's not preferable, but I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, I think I'm more in love with the idea of them prophesizing their end in season 2.
Don't get me wrong, I think that's awesome, and if it could be done well, I would love it because I the 6 seasons in a movie mantra is awesome. But
I love it.
But if we have to do it without Donald Glover, oh man,
Yeah,
I don't know that I want to be part of it. I'll keep watching.
Yeah.
I would hope that he would at least come back for the movie.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So yeah, Tiny, wait, first of all, favorite episodes. Have we agreed it's Modern Warfare, or do you guys have a favorite one?
I don't know. I wish I could think of a different one just for conversation's sake, but
mine is actually the Dungeons and Dragons episode. That's actually my favorite one.
Yes.
Yeah,
and it's funny because I never even played Dungeons and Dragons as a kid. I've never played the game before, but I guess I just get the culture, and so seeing it parodied that way, I thought it was just perfect. That is like a perfect episode in my opinion.
Yeah.
Me too. It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I've never played it either, but that made me want to play Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
It is. Well, I've played Dungeons and Dragons, and it is that. And it is
nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's not as free form as they take it, for the sake of comedy. Right. But it's that. It's like that. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's a good episode.
I would love to play it sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Modern Warfare for me.
Modern Warfare.
All the way.
Or that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tiny? Show?
Yeah, go ahead, Tiny.
Yes, I actually wanted to bring up a show that I do not like.
Ooh. I know where you're going with this. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's also in the 2000s, it's very recent, a show called Two Broke Girls on CBS. Yeah. And I've heard, I don't know why I've heard this, but I've heard that it's actually a pretty successful show as far as ratings and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I just don't know why, because I don't even remember why, but I watched an episode once. I think I watched The Big Bang Theory live instead of on my DVR, and that's Two Broke Girls is on after that or before it or something like that. I can't even remember.
I think it's on before. I think it's How I Met Your Mother and then Two Broke Girls.
Okay. Maybe it was after.
That's why.
Yeah,
okay.
Maybe it was after How I Met Your Mother I watched it. I watched a full episode, and it's a miracle I didn't kill myself. That show is just absolutely horrendous. I mean, if you look at, it's almost like they just showed up to record a stage play or something, because that's how scripted it is, or like how it's just awful. There's no originality to it whatsoever. Which sitcoms are supposed to be formulaic, but this one, they're all supposed to have their own thing. You make a sitcom your own. That's how you make a sitcom really good. That's how you make the formula really good. Is you take the formula and make it your own.
Right.
And that show doesn't do that whatsoever. The most egregious part about it is it is. I would go so far as to say that it's blatantly racist.
Like the Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's Asian guy that works there.
Yes.
What is that? It's crazy.
It's offensive, and I'm not even Asian.
Yeah.
And there's another guy, a black character who literally serves zero purpose whatsoever, except for the other characters to riff off of. Mm-hmm. Or like he kind of reacts to what they do. That's his only purpose for being there. He's like the cashier or something at the store they work at. It's ridiculous. I can't even elaborate on it. He's just such a pointless character, really. And he's a little bit. He's like a stereotypical old black guy, and it's borderline offensive. He's also like a borderline offensive character.
Wow.
It's shocking.
Is it at least played up as satire of that? Like, I mean, like I'm thinking like
I don't think the show's that smart.
I didn't think so. I was going to give it the benefit of the doubt, but I've never seen like a single scene from that, aside from maybe like the beginning of an intro or the end of a tag of an episode on my DVR from How I Met Your Mother. But I mean, I know people like the show. There are people that like the show. Like one of our listeners, Bryony Murray. Bryony, is it?
Bryony
Murray. She said that it's pretty good. So I mean, there are people that like it, but I think it comes to for me, Kat Dennings.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, I know, Mike. I know you have a very strong opinion of her, but she's never really wowed me. I mean, she was okay in 40-Year-Old Virgin, but she's just kind of. I think my thing is that her tone is just bored and kind of oh yeah, I'm gonna be a waitress and make money, and it's just kind of like,
though?
All right,
that's Aubrey Plaza.
Yeah. When I was saying that, I knew you were going to bring up Aubrey Plaza, but Aubrey Plaza kind of has this aura about her that she's like that, but she's also like screw the world. Well,
that's the difference. Aubrey Plaza's cute, but they are the same person.
The difference.
I would say. Go ahead, Tony.
The difference is Kat Dennings is monotone. Aubrey Plaza is deadpan.
That's perfect.
It's a very it's similar, but it's a distinct difference in my opinion. Because Kat Dennings is on the show Two Broke Girls. She's clearly not suited for it because at least the episode I saw and the little scenes I've seen on like the endings of DVR recordings is that when she delivers her lines, she'll have like a half smile a lot of the time, or like she's trying to stifle a laugh, which is really unprofessional in my opinion.
Right.
And
that makes it through the editing and everything.
Yes, it does.
Oh,
it's real.
I don't like that.
It's like when a sketch, an SNL sketch, is really funny, and one of the actors kind of breaks a little bit, and they're smiling.
Let's not mince words, Tiny. When Jimmy Fallon, breaks.
When Jimmy Fallon does it, but when Jimmy Fallon did it, or when it's on that show, it's funny. Like you can relate to it because it's live. Yeah. But on the sitcom, it just makes it so much worse. It's offensive, and so I think Kat Dennings is she's monotone in her delivery, and she's very static. But Aubrey Plaza is she's a style. She's just a comedic style, and she's deadpan. That's the difference between the two, in my opinion.
I'll give you that.
And I will say Aubrey Plaza is objectively the better looking of the two, but I wouldn't really consider that being a big part of my undying love for her. But it is. I mean, I wouldn't count that as being that big of a contributing factor to it.
Right.
Yeah. So I've only seen the one episode and just some scenes here or there, but from what I've seen, it is an offensively bad show in my opinion. I can't, especially this day and age. Like if it was 30 years old, I'd be like, oh, okay, that was just the time. But it is so out of place and so awful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of in not really a similar vein, but going with the 2000s sitcom motif that we've got going. I'm going to bring up New Girl, the Zooey Deschanel series.
Okay.
Which it just recently got on Netflix, the first season, and on a whim I checked it out because a friend recommended it, and it was surprisingly good. Like it was surprisingly pretty funny. I mean, it's got Zooey Deschanel and Jake Johnson, who Jake Johnson I'm a fan of from his role in Safety Not Guaranteed, which I thought is just a great movie.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's a rhythm to the series that's just really good. It's kind of, I don't know how else to explain it other than just the flow of it. I mean, the characters have fairly good chemistry, and it's kind of typical sitcom kind of situations and all that. But I don't know, and kind of it's Zooey Deschanel playing to her strengths as an actress. Kind of the kind of quirky, kind of the word that I hate that's been thrown around so much with the show is adorkable. And I mean, it's so like I was reading tweets when before the show premiered that was Zooey Deschanel at like I think it was like the TCA thing or some panel or whatever, maybe Comic-Con, but she was kind of playing like this whole cute kind of thing, and it was clear like she's playing this part off screen and on screen. I feel at least.
What I hear though is that that's not so much the case on the show anymore, or at least that she's not as much a focal point as she used to be.
I've only seen the first season, but I noticed like toward the end that some of the other characters are like she's not the focal point of the show by any means.
Yeah.
She's kind of the other characters kind of carry a lot of the weight of the comedy of it, and there's some really good setups and stuff. It's really funny. And one person I kind of want to call attention to is a guy who plays a character named Schmidt, who the story is basically three guys have an apartment, and Zooey Deschanel moves in after she's broken up with her boyfriend, and it's just them living together in the small it's sitcom. It's a sitcom, so it's a massive apartment. And there's like they all have like little quirks and stuff. Like one of the running gags, I guess, is this device that they have. This jar that they have called the douchebag jar. That pretty much anytime any of them say anything douchey, they have to put money in this jar. And there's a tag that it's where the character Schmidt, played by Max Greenfield, he just goes on. It's just like cuts here and there of just him saying all these things. I'll actually throw it on in this part here. Like here's the clip.
Ooh, Jess, I just found a Groupon for hypnosis lessons. Think about what you can do with that. Sex stuff.
Jar.
Look, guys, has anyone seen my good pea coat? Jar! Have you seen my sharkskin laptop sleeve?
Jar.
Darn it. Has anyone seen my croquet cleats? Hey, Jess, have you seen my other timepiece? Nick, I came up with the best name for an uncircumcised penis. Bishop in a turtleneck.
Yeah, Jar.
Damn it! I can't find my driving moccasins anywhere!
It's just great. It's just I don't think I've seen him in anything, but he's very, very, very good in the show, and I wasn't expecting him to be very good in the show because he's kind of the douchebag character of all of them, but he kind of has a good arc and all that, and it's really good. And there's at the pilot episode, it's interesting because Damon Wayans Jr. played a role in the pilot episode, and then they recast him because he also was in the pilot for Happy Endings, which got picked up as well, and I guess he was under contract, or I think Mike, you have more.
Yeah, he was with Happy Endings first, and so Happy Endings had precedent. If it got picked up, he had to go with that one, and of course, Happy Endings did get picked up, so.
Right. And what's great is that it's not like he burned any bridges, because he's going to be back in season 3 now that Happy Endings is sadly canceled, which we'll get into later. But it was interesting because in season 1, kind of toward the end, Jake Johnson, his character, he for lack of a better word, relapses on a bad relationship. Like he broke up with a girl before the series started, and he went back to her. So the guys, they show him this DVD of him post-breakup that he made for future. His character's name is Nick, for future Nick to watch when he reconsiders. So he's basically, it shows him just really, he's got like a beard and like a full beard and just really gross looking and all that. And the tag for that episode is him talking, and basically, when they recast Damon Wayans Jr., they cast a different character. So his character was named Coach in the pilot episode, and then the new guy is named Winston. But there's a tag in that episode where it's just him going off on like rants and all that in the DVD, and then he's like, "In future Nick, be nicer to Coach, or you'll lose him, and he'll go live with other white people." Or something. It's just hilarious.
Yeah,
I love that they
cool.
got that in there.
That's funny.
Cool. Yeah. So it's a good show. I haven't watched season 2 yet, but I will eventually, and I think I'll probably watch it when it comes back for season 3.
Yeah.
Especially now that I know that Damon Wayans Jr. is on it. Which Mike, you had some thoughts on Damon Wayans Jr., didn't you?
I do. I have said this to you. These were my exact words. That he is. Maybe it wasn't Damon Wayans Jr., but it was Brad. His character is the funniest character on TV right now. And that's pretty bold. I know that's really
it
bold.
is.
Well, and he's also not on TV right now.
Right.
But man, he just gave me the biggest laughs that I can think of in the last season of TV. He's hilarious.
Yes.
Great show.
Did you get all caught up?
I am not. I have about I don't know, maybe 10, 11, 12 episodes left.
Okay. Yeah, he was fantastic in it, and it speaks to his talent that he's already got a job he's already got a job lined up post
Well, it
Happy
also
Endings.
speaks to his family members. Ooh.
Oh yeah, that's true.
No,
but
he is a talented guy, though. I mean,
he is. He's very talented. Maybe starting out, maybe he used his name to get some work, but I mean, he's earned
totally
any fame that he gets or any acclaim.
Totally.
Definitely.
I've only seen him in like one or two other things, but gosh, there was a movie he was in, like a parody movie. I can't remember what it was called, but
The Other Guys?
No, not that one.
Oh,
it was like a parody movie of like sports movies, but he played a football coach. I think it was him anyways. And it was he was like a football coach at a black high school.
Okay.
And he was calling off the starting lineup for his football team, and every one of the players had the last name Washington. And so he was just like, all right, Washington. All right, cornerback, Washington. Running back, Washington. Right tackle, damn, Washington. It was like,
that's pretty good.
It was really funny.
That's awesome.
I don't know. It's kind of a tangent. Sorry, but
That's
I actually, I don't think that show has a weak character on it. Happy Endings. They're all incredibly strong.
Definitely not.
So many shows I think of do. There's always like a character. Monica.
Every sitcom has a Shirley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said, Monica as well.
Yeah.
To a lesser extent, I kind of liked Monica for all that she was, but
I don't, even if I had to pick one, I'd go with Jane. But I think she's supposed to be somewhat unlikable wife, but she's not even that unlikable. I like her a lot.
Right.
And she's funny. And they're funny together.
Oh yeah, they're a great couple on the show, and what I love is that it kind of goes against type, the series itself, because I mean you have Max as the gay guy of the group, and then you have Brad, which is kind of like the black guy of the group or whatever, and it's usually in like a more stereotypical sitcom. It would be like the gay guy would be kind of the effeminate guy. He would fit that type, and then like the black guy would be like the hip guy who's really cool and all that, and that's their roles are almost reversed completely because Brad is kind of this effeminate guy, and it's just it plays so well to the actors. And it's great. And on a small tangent, or not really tangent, but Adam Pally, is that how you pronounce his name?
Sure.
Who plays Max? Yeah, he. I loved his cameo or whatever you want to call it, but I loved his role in Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
I thought that was just fantastic.
When I saw Iron Man 3, I had not seen Happy Endings yet, so I wasn't. I didn't get the big deal. The first thing I thought was, is that Joaquin Phoenix?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. They do look a lot alike.
Yeah, they do. I don't know about all the time, but in that scene, the quick when he looks at Robert Downey Jr. or Tony Stark, I guess, really fast, it's like, is that Joaquin Phoenix? What is going on? Why is he in this movie?
That's funny.
But I love. This is like the 100th time on the podcast I've talked about Chicago, but I love that it takes place in Chicago.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Happy endings.
I think that was one of the big selling points for me to sell it to you, because I wanted to get you into the show.
It was.
I was like, hey, yeah.
Well, and just every other show. Well, not every other show, but there's just so many New York shows, and Seinfeld just seems so New York, and Friends is so New York. It's kind of a breath of fresh air for me, at least, to see a Chicago show, and just to hear him talk about Chicago things and streets and roads that I know. And Max, in particular, I don't know that that's how he talks in real life, but his Chicago accent, he sounds like one of my cousins. It's pretty authentic.
Yeah,
Nice.
There is a very distinct Chicago accent that I think a lot of people don't realize it actually exists.
Yeah.
For example, I think one of the best examples is the movie Tommy Boy. Dan Aykroyd's character has a super Chicago accent.
Yes, he does.
Gad, I love that.
Yeah,
That was great.
A lot of people, kind of the quintessential Chicago accent is the super fans from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah,
You know
that
what I mean?
too.
He's
Yeah.
Bob's laid up with another heart attack. Was that does that make a baker's dozen there? Yeah.
Oh, speaking of
Doubles.
speaking of Baker's dozen, there was a great line in Happy Endings where, Alex, played by Alicia Cuthbert, which I'll talk about in a moment, but she and Max are trying to wake up Dave.
David, you have a problem. How many V-neck T-shirts have you worn this weekend?
I don't know. It's a baker's dozen.
11.
13, huh?
I think my baker's ripping me off.
It's just played off so well, and it's so subtle and kind of blink and you missed it. And Alicia Cuthbert, I will go on record and say that she was phenomenal in Happy Endings. Like, I really hope that she goes out for more sitcoms.
It's the best thing she's done.
Totally.
By far. And
Yeah.
I've said before that I in another life I was a huge fan of 24.
Yeah.
And she was clearly the weak link of that series. For the most part, and I love that they kind of poked fun at that. Like, there was one scene where Penny is giving her like scenarios or something like that, and she's like, "Okay, well, your dad is a government agent, and you're trapped by a cougar or something like that."
Yeah.
And it's just like, and she gives her this look. She may even say something like, "That's ridiculous. Come on."
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. And I just love the character of Alex, and Alicia Cuthbert just was phenomenal in it. And she kind of played this ditzy, kind of ditzy. I think in another podcast, one of you guys, like, which one was it?
It was Mike.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The Joey Tribbianification of her character.
Tribbianification?
Yeah. Good word.
Technical term.
Yeah. It happened really fast, but it's good.
Yeah.
I love Casey Wilson as Penny.
She's fantastic.
Her almost self-aware that she's in a sitcom jokes. I just love. I was watching because her catchphrase in the first two seasons was amazing.
Yeah.
And she said, then she says in the third season that she hasn't said it in a season, which I thought was hilarious, or all season or something like that. And then later on she goes, "It was crazy." I don't know why I said that. I should have said that.
And when in that line when she said, like, "I haven't said it all season," they're like, "What a weird way to judge time."
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. Like you said, that self-awareness that the show had was just perfectly maintained. Because they could have gone ultra meta like Community and kind of just done that. Which, I mean, for Community, I mean, it's genius and brilliant.
Right.
But I mean, for what Happy Endings was, it fit the show perfectly.
Totally.
And it's just such a shame to see it go. And what's interesting is that it wasn't even on my radar at all until a friend mentioned that she really liked the show. And it was like I remember because when it premiered alongside, I think, that show Traffic Light.
Sure.
And yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And a couple other Friends-esque sitcoms that basically, like, there was like 6, like, I think every network had at least one like group of friends in a big city sitcom that was trying to replicate Friends and How I Met Your Mother and all that. And I mean, like, watch now. I think that New Girl might be the only one that's left.
Yeah.
But I just assumed that Happy Endings would be crap, and around the second season, I was like, "Huh, I didn't realize that it was still alive."
That's what most people said.
Yeah, and then like a friend was like, "Oh, it's really great." So I was like, "All right," and I checked it out, and it blew me away. I was very impressed.
Yeah,
it's a great show.
It is.
Oh yeah,
it is a great show.
Yeah. I forgot whose turn it was. Do you guys want to bring up another one?
I think we stepped on Tiny's turn.
Yeah, my bad.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. The one I wanted to bring up is a show that I hope we're all familiar with, called Home Improvement.
Like
Classic
on the Discovery
show.
Channel?
Yeah, Home Improvement with Bob Vila.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Who was actually on the show Home Improvement several times.
Yeah, listeners, I'm kidding. Of course I know Home Improvement.
Yeah. Home Improvement, classic.
Yeah, it's a great show. And it's funny because I'd say the only person who really... You can't really say that anybody from that show has a stifling career anymore. Like,
Right.
I mean, Tim Allen is still in some stuff, but he hasn't really been in anything big other than Toy Story 3.
And the Santa Claus 3.
Yeah. Well,
Let's move on.
Richard Karn was the host of Family Feud.
That's
He
true.
was,
for a
wasn't
little
he?
while.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
successful.
And I mean, well, and like Patricia Richardson was on, she had a really good run on The West Wing.
She did.
She was great. Yeah, she was on that for like a season or two. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So yeah, but like none of the kids. I mean, wow. Jonathan Taylor Thomas was in like huge for like 5 or 6 years, and then
Yeah. Then he
nothing.
retired.
Did he really?
He did.
Yeah.
He called it a day.
Wow.
Yeah. The oldest son, was it Brad?
Yeah, that's his name.
Zachary
Okay.
Ty
Yeah.
Ryan.
Yeah,
Wow.
he was in. I think he was in the Fast and Furious 3 Tokyo Drift
Really?
for like the opening scene. Like, what is it? Lucas Black is that
Yeah,
the main
Lucas
character's
Black.
name?
Yeah.
Main guy's name. But he was in Tokyo Drift. He played the kind of a-hole
Like a bully, sort of.
a bully in the beginning. That
Yeah.
he gave Lucas Black some crap, and the movie is just god awful. But it was funny because, as a small tangent here, they basically he's basically bullying him, and then Lucas Black is like, "Hey, why don't we race?" And then he's like, "Oh yeah, what do I get when I win?" or whatever the bully was, and he's like, "You get my car, but if I win, I get your girl." And the girl's like, "Oh yeah, totally, I'm totally on board with that." It's like, oh, come on.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Wow.
That show, I love that show too. It resonated with me a lot, particularly in the end, the final season. I mean, I watched it obsessively before that. But in name drop, by the way, obsessively.
You're at the right place.
The final season, they moved from their home of many years to Indiana. Right?
Did they really?
Yeah, they did. That was like the last episode.
Wow.
My family, when that episode aired, moved to Indiana.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
it aired in
Nice.
May 25th of 1999. I just looked that up.
Wow.
And they moved to Bloomington, Indiana, which is not
Oh, wow.
really anywhere near in Indiana where I went to high school. But
Right.
we also moved that same month to Indiana.
Wow.
Wow.
So I was like, we're moving. The Taylors are moving. This sucks.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
great show. Though.
But I thought the, it's not it's a pretty formulaic show, but I thought the character of Tim Taylor was actually pretty good, pretty great character. Just like especially the fact that he's like super clumsy and he's always getting hurt and stuff. Like it's stupid, but it worked with Tim Allen's comedic abilities.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
That was probably my favorite part of it, was just his character being really funny. He elevated the show really.
yeah.
And the whole gimmick of the Wilson next door. You never see his mouth or whatever, like the lower part of his face.
Right.
It was again really stupid, but it was funny. You know?
Yeah, I loved and appreciated all the gimmicks. I was okay that every episode he ruined something. It made me laugh every time. Every
Really?
time he said, "I don't think so, Tim," it made me laugh every time. I was totally okay with all that stuff, and I guess that's the mark of a good show because that was hilarious.
It the episode that makes me cringe with just like that feeling of, oh no, he really screwed up, was the one where he destroys his wife's car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that where he drops the I-beam on it or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, he's really that's a problem.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That's good. Do we have favorite episodes of that?
Jeez.
Oof.
I guess I'll start because I asked.
Okay.
I would say any of the Halloween episodes because they were always particularly creepy.
Yeah.
I like when they got their friend, the Halloween guy, to scare the kids. Like he was a crazy guy released from the mental hospital or something like. Because that was every fear in the 90s was somebody was released from the mental hospital.
Yeah.
And then any of the man's insert room of the house episodes. Where like they would show the man's kitchen or the man's.
Yes.
I wanted them so bad.
Me too. Yeah. The man's kitchen one was probably the best in my opinion.
Yeah.
I love that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't really pick a favorite episode. I like the one where I remember scenes from the show more than anything, and I like the one where the episode of Tool Time where he had on. I don't know who they were. They were like these construction guys who were his friends. And they, like the one guy makes a grilled cheese sandwich with like a welding torch.
Yep.
And they bake a cake by setting it on the carburetor of a car engine and stuff like that.
Yep.
That was just a ridiculous episode.
Awesome.
He and his spatula with the grilled cheese is the brick and mortar, like the mortar spreader.
The trowel,
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And just the quickness with which he flips the thing into his hand, and then he goes, "There you go, Timmy."
So funny.
Give that a try or something like that.
Something funny about Home Improvement and Seinfeld and those sitcoms of the 90s was that they don't make them like that anymore. And I know that's kind of cliche to say that, but I mean these were shows that were basically based off of a stand-up comics routine.
Totally.
And written around that. And I would love for that to be something that happens now because Louis, yeah, but I mean he was
that.
That's true.
But
that's true.
They did. I feel like Dane Cook shot like 4 separate pilots.
Really?
And they didn't get picked up.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So what does that mean? What does that say? Comics are just not as good actors as they used to be. They're not giving shows a chance. Like I don't know that Jerry Seinfeld was that great of an actor at first.
Oh, he definitely wasn't.
He turned out to be great. I mean, I think he's awesome.
Yeah.
But
he's great. Just his acting was just
at first not so much. Yeah, I don't know why. But that's the last I can think of is like Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yeah, that's about the last one I can think of too.
Yeah, same here.
Like, I would love to see like a Mike Birbiglia sitcom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although he's got his whole movie thing going now. Like Sleepwalk With Me was a great movie, and I think he could be like people are calling him like the next Woody Allen kind of guy. So
yeah.
Right.
He's doing all right.
Jim Gaffigan's comedy makes for sitcom.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
He's totally family friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And talks about family life and all that. I think he could make a funny show.
That's very true.
Yeah, a silly dad who loves food.
Exactly.
Yeah, perfectly.
Exactly.
Yeah, perfect.
Right.
That's golden.
Right.
Yeah.
I love. It's ridiculous tangent. I'm totally stealing one of his jokes, but one that always makes us laugh is he's got 4 kids now, and his newest especially talks about having 4 kids. People always ask what it's like to have 4 kids, and I tell them, imagine drowning, and someone hands you a baby.
He is hilarious.
Yep.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah. He
funny.
would be good for a sitcom.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Cool.
One of the greatest, I guess, if you don't count Seinfeld, because I talked about Seinfeld in part 1. One of the greatest shows based on the comedy is Cosby Show.
True.
Oh yeah.
I love the Cosby Show.
I never really watched it.
And the best part about the Cosby Show, and I've read that this is what Bill Cosby liked about his show, and what he was always really adamant about was that the parents weren't dumb.
Oh yeah. Okay, I can see that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That's true.
so I like
Yeah,
that.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah. Whose turn is it?
I think it's my turn. I didn't mean to talk about.
Oh, it's cool.
I didn't mean to talk about Cosby. It just kind of came up.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'll talk about one of those shows that, of our generation, is perhaps one of the most popular. I always like to do this little intro to all my shows, like I build up anticipation.
Yeah.
It's perhaps one of the most important shows of our generation. But when you go back and watch it, well, I'll talk about that in a minute. Boy Meets World.
Oh, yes.
I love Boy Meets World, a staple of TGIF, kind of like the last great TGIF show was Boy Meets World. Man, I loved that show. I remember watching the first season, and I remember watching the last season, and watching reruns after, and everything in between. I remember when the DVDs came out, and I was obsessed again. That's just one of those great childhood shows.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, as far as the end, watching it now at 25, 26 years old, it's not as good as you remember it, guys.
Really?
Unfortunately, yeah.
I was just thinking, like, I'm getting chills just thinking of, what is it, Feeney in the classroom by himself?
Yes. Let me tell you what.
Oh, that's such a great...
That is one of very, very few good moments from that season.
Oh, wow.
It is such a weird season, and it's so melodramatic at the end. I mean, it was a pretty melodramatic show as it was.
Sure.
But there is so much over the top, so many implausibilities. It's strange. The seventh season especially is not the show you remember. Now, what happened is I bought the seventh season because I meant to buy 5 and 6, but I haven't yet. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7. So I bought the seventh season, and I said, well, before I watch this, we're going to start over. So we started watching the first season, and that was more or less how you remember it. But as an adult male, the lessons don't hit home like they do when you're an adult. It's very very kiddie. It's very much for the family to watch, and it's very much lessons. Like every episode is a lesson for a 12-year-old to learn, right?
Huh.
So that's difficult to sit through. Not that it's not entertaining, but it's almost too gooey and cheesy that it's hard to watch as an adult. Like if there's no kids in the room, it's not great. Now, I kind of got impatient and skipped right to the 7th season, and that's more grown up, but so different and so awkward and so not what you remember. But the finale is good. You're right. That nice. Moment where he's in the classroom is good.
Okay.
But Sean is gonna be the best man at Corey's wedding, but then gets in a fight and backs out, and then he does a big speech up at the I guess on the altar, talking to the two of them, which does not happen at weddings. They do not talk like that during weddings.
Well, Mike, let's just wait and see what your wedding's like, because I have some things planned.
You got some things planned? Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I'm kind of mad that you brought that up, because that was totally my plan for your wedding in October.
That's funny. You're gonna show up drunk.
Yeah.
That's
Tiny,
funny.
what do you think of Boy Meets World?
I don't think of Boy Meets World. I actually did not watch the show.
Really?
I never watched.
Wow.
I've seen maybe one episode. I
What were you
watch
doing in the 90s? Going outside and playing?
Yeah. I don't know. I just never watched it.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Did you watch TGIF?
No, I don't even. I'm not sure what that is.
Wow.
No.
Was it
really?
Was it NBC or CBS?
It was ABC.
ABC. There you
go.
ABC.
TGIF was like the sitcom block of.
It was, and it was ABC because you remember they went to Disney that one time. Remember when all the shows went to Disney?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And they had the whole crossover stuff. Yeah,
right.
It was like what all was it? It was Boy Meets World, Step by Step,
Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Witch.
There was one other one that was
Full House TGIF.
Oh, jeez. You know what? I don't think so. I think it might have been on briefly, but it was people mistake it, I think, for a TGIF staple, but it wasn't a TGIF staple. I think it was like a Thursday night show.
Okay. Yeah, and the whole idea of TGIF, I mean, just programming in general, I've said it before on the podcast that it's kind of one of those things that it just doesn't happen anymore. It's a relic of times gone by.
Right, but I miss it so much.
So do I. I mean,
we did the nostalgia movies episode, and if we were talking about nostalgia TV, I could sum it up in TGIF.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Wow, yeah. I guess I missed the boat on that one.
Yeah.
I think I know I watched Step by Step. I assume I watched the syndication of it on a different channel, but.
Yeah.
I that does not ring any bells. TGIF. I don't know. Was it actually on Fridays?
It was on every Friday. TGIF.
Yeah.
It was on from 8 Eastern to 10 o'clock, a 2-hour block. And the first block in 1985-1986 season was Webster, Mr. Belvedere, Different Strokes, and Benson.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the only I'm not even familiar with Benson, embarrassingly enough.
Yeah,
but
me either.
in 87 and 88, Full House was on.
Full House was on, and also
and then 89 and 90, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Wikipedia too, Mike.
Nice, but the one I remember, like the years I remember, is Family Members, Boy Meets World,
Family Matters.
Family Matters.
Yeah,
is that not what I said? What I say?
You said Members, but
Family Matters.
Okay.
Hanging with Mr. Cooper.
Hanging
Did you ever watch
with
that?
Mr. Cooper.
No.
Dinosaurs. You guys remember Dinosaurs?
You know, it's funny. No. I don't remember it, but my sister was a huge fan of it. Apparently,
yeah. I think McDonald's had toys.
Probably
for a time, and Perfect Strangers.
You referenced that in part 1. You watching it with your brother.
Yeah.
I did. Perfect Strangers was big. I'm
not familiar with that show at all.
I'm looking again at the Wikipedia. And pre-TGIF, there was a 2-hour block on Fridays, and this is why I remember Perfect Strangers. In 1988, it was hosted by Balky and Larry from Perfect Strangers, Bronson Pinchot, and the other guy. I don't remember Larry's name. But anyway, and they hosted this 2-hour block of Perfect Strangers, Full House, Mr. Belvedere, and just the 10 of us. And it kept. And that was pretty much the 90s, was that 2-hour block on Fridays. And I just remember my parents would come home and we'd like catch the end of the Bulls game that was on, because you know how they were always winning in the 90s. And then we'd eat McDonald's and watch TGIF.
Wow.
And that was every week. That was, tradition.
And that's crazy to think about it, because I'm not sure how it was in the 90s and late 80s like that. But, nowadays, Friday night is where TV shows go to die.
Yes, it is.
Networks,
absolutely.
Yeah, networks program their worst performing shows on Fridays because no one's watching on Fridays. Yeah. And I don't know what happened to us as a culture that we don't do that anymore. Maybe it's just technology makes it harder for families to be together, but that's a whole other podcast.
It is a whole other podcast, and I'll say that I think it's a really big one. I think the other really big one might be, and maybe I'm just an old man, video games. Since then, we've had the Xbox and the PlayStation 2 happened, like 98 or whatever, 99?
Yeah, I think it was 99.
Maybe, yeah. So anyway... and then Friday night became, I get to come home and play video games all night because I don't have to go to school tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And there's no science to that. I could be way off, but that just sounds...
Yeah.
Yeah. At least of which I think that's a pretty big contributing factor to it.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Love Boy Meets World. That's a good show.
Okay. Full House, just briefly, because we're already closing in on an hour here.
Oh man.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to do some cliffhanger for the end of the trilogy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, and Full House, I wanted to talk about that just briefly because, I mean, we're kind of flirting with it a little bit here.
Yep.
That show, that was one of those shows that my family watched all the time, and like we watched as a family together.
Mine too.
And going back and watching it again is like, and I'm also going to add on another show after this, but it's so cheesy and so sentimental, overly sentimental, that it's almost, I haven't watched it in years, but I just think like of the situations that happen, and it gets so, I don't know, it gets so cheesy and all that, but it's still the nostalgia is there for me for that show.
Bad thing happens. Dad walks in. Cue the emotional music.
Yep.
Talks through the daughters. Daughters respond through tears. They hug. Joey comes in and tells a joke.
Right.
Does a voice impression.
Which, it's funny because one of the things that always struck me about it, and I always see like John Stamos tweeting about them because I guess he's friends with them, but I don't know anyone, even like teenagers in the 90s, I would venture to guess, that was that invested in the Beach Boys.
No.
In
the 90s, no. But in the 90s, he was 30, so I think it's very possible that he was that into the Beach Boys.
Yeah, I'm talking about the characters in the show.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's very possible that Uncle Jesse was that into the Beach Boys.
Okay, yeah. I
mean,
like,
if the girls were fans, then no.
That's the thing. That's another thing. Is that's what I was getting at. There was an episode where DJ, like freaks out because she wins tickets on the radio to Beach Boys, and I'm like,
oh, okay.
What?
Yeah.
It just seemed like they were like, okay, well, we need like a big guest star. Hey, John, you're friends with the Beach Boys, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I never thought about it till now.
That's funny. Callback. Wasn't the neighbor on Home Improvement, Wilson, like cousins with the Beach Boys? Wasn't that an episode?
I do not know.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
And like oh man, what was it? Like he recorded some background vocals for Pet Sounds, but they didn't like it, so they asked him not to be part of it. Yeah, he was like Brian Wilson's cousin, right? Wilson.
That's
Wilson
not ringing any bells.
Cousin.
Huh.
Awesome.
That's funny.
I don't remember that, but that's cool.
And real quick, I'm gonna hijack the podcast for a second, but
it's your show. Do it.
Saved by the Bell.
Yes.
Not for me. I know. I don't know that I've ever seen a full episode of Saved by the Bell.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's you call that my Boy Meets World.
Yeah, definitely, because that's shocking.
That was a classic. I mean, I remember watching it, waking up early, like during middle school and elementary school, and watching like the reruns on like TBS at like 7 a.m. or like 6 a.m.
Yep.
7.
Yeah. And I mean, I loved it.
I have the same memory, and I remember changing the channel. I remember turning it on, and that was on, and then finding something else.
It doesn't hold up remotely. I mean,
no, not at all.
Not in the least bit. And I mean, I would go so far as to say it's not even worth checking out for that kind of, it's so cheesy that it's funny kind of thing. Maybe it is, but I mean, it's on Netflix now. I might throw it on here once in a while, but it's it's so goofy and so over the top and so cheesy.
But it gave the world Mario Lopez.
It did. And Franklin or Bash or whichever one he is in it.
Oh
yeah.
But Paul Gosselaar.
Yeah. But the show, like, I always joke that it's it gave me just horrible expectations for high school, like completely inaccurate expectations for high school.
What do you mean, like you were not able to stop time?
No, I was not able to stop time.
Yeah.
My principal and I didn't team up to do like a radio-a-thon to save a local establishment that my friends and I went to all the time. I mean, that never happened.
Yeah.
I mean, and Tiny can attest to that. Tiny, Mr. Smith and I never did anything like that, right?
Not that I know. I hope you didn't.
Yeah.
Not that
or
I know.
Mr. Lawrence either. I mean, it was disappointing on so many levels. And then here come the ill-fated Saved by the Bell, the college years. I mean, yeah. Like Mike, you and I didn't have like a friend. Like our RA wasn't this former professional football player who was really into our lives for some weird reason.
No, I don't remember our RA at all.
Oh, it was
Was he British?
It was a British guy. Which, oh man, we could talk about Undeclared. But it was funny because in the summer before freshman year, I watched Undeclared, the Judd Apatow single season sitcom. And Charlie Hunnam plays Lloyd, the British guy in the episode or in the series. But with the day that we moved in, my brother met, or like the RA introduced himself, and then my brother's like, "Oh my God, it's Lloyd," because he was watching Undeclared too.
That's funny. And I was Seth Rogen.
Yeah. I don't want to get into this game because I don't want to know who I was.
Yeah. You were. What's her name?
What's her name? That's never a good thing.
You were the dad.
I was the dad, yeah. I was Hal.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of running low on time, so I hate to kind of... It feels like, with these sitcom episodes, it feels like I'm cutting it short, but I mean, we've done 2.5 hours on sitcoms.
We have.
Yeah.
Cumulatively.
Right.
And it's just, I mean...
And I really don't think we'll be scraping at the bottom of the barrel for part 3.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
But we'll do it.
We will.
All right, so we come to the part of the show where that we are tentatively calling the potpourri section, and where we talk about what we might be watching coming up, what we might have watched in the past, or just parting thoughts. So what are you guys thinking about, Tiny?
I wanted to mention a fun little movie I saw called Pain and Gain.
The Michael Bay movie.
Michael Bay movie. Yeah, it's really hurting my ego to say a Michael Bay movie, but it was actually a pretty fun movie. The source material is just gold. It was begging to be made into a movie. Unfortunately, I think it would have been a lot better if I just see the Coen brothers making it, because it's just a ridiculous. It reminded me a little bit of like, geez, what was that movie they made with Brad Pitt where they worked at? Wow.
Oh, I can't remember.
The Coen brothers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was called, but yeah, it wasn't.
Burn After Reading.
There you go, that one.
Yeah. J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, you can tell I did my research. But it reminded me of that. So I think the source material would have been great for the Coen brothers to do. But Michael Bay he did fine with it. You know, it was typical Michael Bay in a lot of places. But Mark Wahlberg was funny. The Rock was actually hilarious. I think it was his best comedic work yet. He was really funny.
Wow. What's the plot? Because I remember seeing the trailer and thinking it looks pretty funny. And just that scene of Mark Wahlberg working out on the billboard or something was just hilarious.
Yeah.
But what's like the actual plot of the movie? Because that's all I could remember.
The plot of the movie is these 3 guys who they're bodybuilders. They work at a gym, which is not a very lucrative job. They just don't make very much money. They basically get the idea to take one of their clients who's rich, and they basically just kidnapped him, and they forced him to sign over all of his assets to them. And they basically just, like Mark Wahlberg's character, kind of in some situations he kind of just assumed the guy's identity and stuff. And it was funny. Tony Shalhoub played the guy that they forced that they kidnap and steal all his stuff.
Nice.
And they tried to
Antonio from Wings.
Yes, exactly.
Bringing it back.
Yep. And then The Rock played this big meathead who was
Dwayne Johnson from WWE.
Yes, there you go. But he
bringing it back,
the People's Champion. He
People's Champion.
He was basically like this idiot. Like he was really really dumb and naive, and just people took advantage of him. But it was so funny to watch. I really enjoyed it. It was fun.
Nice.
Yeah, it was on my radar when it came out, and it's just kind of the ones that slipped past me.
Yeah.
You know, you can only see so many movies in the theater. I think it was during a busy spring.
Right.
So.
Wow. I would like to just note that this is podcast history because I believe that this is the first time that anyone has ever mentioned Michael Bay and the Coen brothers in the same sentence about the same thing.
You're right.
And it had to be me.
Yep.
Good job,
now that's going to haunt you for a lifetime.
It is.
I had a question about. Oh, you said, is it based on any existing?
Yeah,
thing?
it's a completely true story. It takes place in Miami. It was in the.
Oh wow!
It was in like the early to mid '90s, somewhere in there.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Is the movie from that time period, or did they modernize it?
No, they set it in the '90s. It's great. It's hilarious. Mark Wahlberg's character drives a Fiero, and there's one point where that's a 2-seater car and it's really small. They're all three of them. Mark Wahlberg, Anthony Mackie, and Dwayne Johnson are sitting in the Fiero. It's really funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Funny.
I didn't even know Anthony Mackie was in it. I'm a fan of his.
Yeah, he's great. He was really funny.
I have to check that out.
And
Okay.
Rebel Wilson's in it as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
What do you guys got?
Mike, you want to go?
Yeah, I can go.
Okay.
My weekly movie viewing last week, I guess when this is posted, it will have been a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Kick-Ass 2 in
Awesome.
theaters.
Ah, nice. I've heard some mixed reviews, I think. So
Yeah.
What you think?
So have I. I've heard actually some really, really, really poor and scathing reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly one guy from the Roger Ebert website, which I barely even read anymore because it's just not the same. But anyway, he hated it. I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was better than the first one.
Oh wow!
Nice.
Holy shit! Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was really good. It's very faithful to the comic book, which I kind of have mixed feelings about the comic book, but I like what it did aside from the comic book. I think that made me love it so much. My brother brought up a good point that he said he's still waiting for Kick-Ass to actually kick ass at some time, and he still hasn't yet. He still gets the crap beat out of him. But he did a real one-arm pull-up in the movie, and is now my life goal to do a one-arm pull-up. So the movie was good, highly recommend. But why I wanted to bring that up was because while I was in the theater,
oh yeah,
I'm sitting there with 3 of my friends, and the movie, as most people know, is a very hard R. Mm-hmm. It is. I'm sure it was NC-17 until the 11th hour when they cut out the very last thing. You know what I mean?
Oh,
it's that hard R.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so it's foul language, which whatever. There's nudity in it, whatever. But graphic, and depressing violence. Okay, and so this family walks in, mid-30s, mom and dad, and a 6, 7, 8-year-old kid, young enough that his dad was in the bathroom stall with him, helping him out.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Okay, and I'm sitting there wondering, is this do I have some kind of obligation, some kind of right to say, hey, not in an accusing way, just hey, listen, this is probably not a good movie for him to see. And I kind of posted that on Twitter and Facebook and got very mixed results. Most people saying I shouldn't have said anything.
Right.
I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
But that I should have. And because at first, I was thinking, there's no way that they know how bad this movie is. Maybe I should just warn them because they can't know how bad it is. Right? Like the kid said, I want to go watch Kick-Ass. My friend saw it and said it was awesome. And they're like, okay. And so, I was thinking, maybe they don't know. And so then, the first time Chloe Grace Moritz uses the C word and then somebody gets a hand chopped off and they don't get up and leave, they know what they were in for.
Right. So they stayed throughout the entire movie?
It's the whole movie, the entire movie, till the credits. Wow. And then toward the end, and I didn't hear this, my friend overheard it, he said the little kid goes, is this movie almost over yet?
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
Oh. And then I thought, man, what if this is his first superhero movie?
That's too bad.
Isn't that awful?
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? What should I... Where do you stand?
Tiny, you go first. I
I would say here in the good old U.S. of A., people don't take too kindly to having anyone telling them anything to do with their kids. Even if, obviously, you were very good intentioned. It's not like you were saying, you're terrible parents, but they would have interpreted that. There's a lot of people who would have interpreted it that way. So I never really mess around with anything like that. I agree, though. I think there's a limit to what kids should. I remember when I saw the movie Watchmen in the theater, there was a couple there, and their son was maybe 5 or 6, and
wow,
like that movie's not super violent. Well, it is, but there's like I just remember the part where Rorschach, like looks for that guy who kidnapped the girl and fed the body,
puts a cleaver to his face.
Yeah, takes a cleaver to his face. That part was really disturbing. Even for me as like a 20-some-year-old guy, I can't imagine how that 5-year-old felt. So
right,
but
I keep getting a lot of anecdotes. A lot of I was in the theater and somebody brought in a bunch of kids to The Conjuring, or this little kid saw whatever Paranormal Activity, and I'm like, I get what you're saying, and I know that you were in similar situations, but something about the depressing nature and the intentionally over the top graphic nature of the violence in Kick-Ass just for some reason made it feel worse for me that this kid is watching it.
That's fair.
Yeah, I agree, and I'll side with Tiny in saying that. I mean, you can have the best, you could watch parents smoking meth or doing meth in front of their kid, and then you could say like, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that, and they'd be like, hey, don't tell me how to raise my kids.
Exactly.
That's just a knee-jerk reaction.
I think that's you're right. They would do that, but in that case, I would absolutely say something.
That's a little different.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but I mean, letting your kid watch this movie is borderline abuse.
I agree, and I kind of wonder. Do you? You said he was like 6 or 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, would the depressing tone of it, would that have like really registered with them, or would it have been more like, oh, they're in costumes and they're fighting?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, clearly he wanted to leave toward the end of the movie.
Right.
I don't wish this on him. I feel horrible for the kid, but I really hope he was up all night with nightmares, had to sleep the night in his parents' bed, and peed all over him.
Oh, the parents are jerks in their own right, but I don't know. It's a sticky situation, and like it reminds me of, I don't remember if I mentioned this in the memorable theater experience episode, but I went and saw 3 in the theater, and this couple came in. It was like me and my sister, and then like a couple toward the front of the row with about a 6 or 7 year old kid. Yeah, and I was like, that kid is going to be scarred for life. And I'm like sitting there, like even I had to turn away when there's like the brain surgery scene where they see removing the skull, a piece of the skull, and they see the brain and everything. I'm like, what?
Totally.
I don't know. It's a messy situation. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you can fix it or how.
Yeah. I mean, you can't fix it. I've taken in everything that people say, and I agree that they probably wouldn't have left or done anything and gotten mad. But I just feel like for my own, of my own moral compass, I should have just said something. Their reactions be damned. You know what I mean?
Because and it could have been. I mean, you can demonize the parents. I mean, you still probably can since they stayed. But I mean, it could have easily been. I can see where you're coming from, because it could have been within your right to do it, because it could have been possible that the parents just didn't. They're like, oh, hey, a superhero movie. Let's take our kid to it because he liked, I don't know, he liked Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it would be. I mean, I still wouldn't say that you should speak to them or say something to them about it. Maybe, but I mean, in that case, if they can tell, I mean. If you go to a theater and you leave before the halfway point, and you cause a big fuss, they'll give you a refund, or they'll give you a emergency get back in pass. I mean, it's not. Don't scar your kid if you're
right. I just hope that the ticket taker said something, because they do have an obligation.
Yeah.
Legally, they have. We addressed it in the Yahoo Answers. Legally, they have to sell them the ticket, but they really need to say, "Hey, I don't know if you guys know, but." You know what I mean?
And that's probably the best way that it could have been addressed,
right?
Instead of someone in the theater with them.
Yeah. Totally.
Totally.
All right. Well, what about you, Matt? What are you looking forward to, or what did you see?
Well, let's see. Last night, at the time of this recording, I recently watched this movie called Palo Alto, California.
Okay.
Or Palo Alto, CA. I don't know how it's pronounced out loud, but it was actually my Streaming Saturday recommendation this past week. It's about a group of friends who they come back to their town or their suburban town or whatever on their Thanksgiving break from their freshman year of college. And it's interesting because it's the Netflix description says that they come back to their town and they notice it's drastically different or something to that effect. Mm-hmm. But the movie isn't like that. It's not. I don't know where Netflix got their summary, but it's a different thing. It's more about the characters and their individual experiences about in the town. Not about the town itself, but it's basically the movie opens with them in their old high school being chased by a security guard, and then from there they have a little conversation. It's like it's the end of their night basically, and then from there they just break off onto their own, and then the entire movie is them each individually having a different experience for the rest of the night. So it's basically going back to kind of the sitcom thing. One of them is Ben Savage from
nice
Boy Meets World.
Yeah,
he plays a guy who's who's really dedicated to his future and everything, and then his girlfriend breaks up with him, so he kind of goes a little crazy, and then he goes to a party with his brother, and then there's three other people, like a couple other guys, like one says the wrong thing to a friend with benefits, so she gets mad and leaves and steals his car. So it's basically him and the girl's grandma driving around the town trying to find the car. Mm-hmm. And then the third guy is... Wow, I can't even remember. Wow. And I just watched this movie. The third guy has a thing. It's, he's pledging a frat, and the security guard at the high school, played by Ryan Hansen, actually, from Party Down, they bond pretty much because they're both in the same frat. And then the last guy is Johnny Lewis. Are you guys familiar with that actor?
No.
I don't know.
He was in Sons of Anarchy, which I'll get into this in a moment, but he played Half-Sack in Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, okay.
The actor actually died last year.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting because he was in and out of prison or in and out of jail with various drug-related charges, and the way that he died was that he apparently strangled his 81-year-old landlord. Ooh. And then fell and died.
Jeez.
Yeah, and they said that there was no drugs or anything in his system or anything. It was just a very bizarre case, and it's
weird.
Yeah, so he's in it, and it's kind of about halfway through. I looked him up, and I remembered that, and I was like, wow, and he was talented and everything, but just crazy. Or not to say he was crazy, but saying that the situation was crazy.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, maybe he might have been crazy.
He might have been, but I don't want to get into that kind of weird labeling or whatever. But anyway, his character in the movie is he meets Autumn Reeser. Is that how you pronounce her name? Yeah. Autumn Reeser, and it's basically like a meet cute with the two of them as they kind of walk through the town and get to know each other. And it's by far the standout plot line of the movie. It was okay. It was kind of an indie, kind of low budget kind of thing, and Autumn Reeser was pretty good, but she kind of towed the line between being adorably socially awkward and almost to the point of being a little Asperger's-ish, which I don't know if that was a conscious effort or if that was written into the script, but it was a little weird. But for the most part, it was really good. Their interactions made me keep watching the movie.
Cool.
Yeah, but overall, it was just okay. It was like I said, it was low budget. It was an indie movie. You can kind of see the blemishes. The trivia on the page said that on the IMDb said that the entire crew was made up of high school students that the director taught, like a cinematography class to or something like that.
Oh, wow.
That's funny.
Yeah, so there's some blemishes, but if you can get past that, it's a pretty good watch. It kind of tries to be American Graffiti just a little bit, and it fails in that respect. But it's a worthy little homage, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So it's not bad. It's on Netflix instant.
All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up for this episode. As usual, thanks for tuning in, everybody. You can find all three of us on Twitter. I'm at Obsessive Tiny. Matt is at Obsessive Viewer. Mike is at I am Mike White. You can shoot us an email at ovpodcast@gmail.com. Send us some comments on the website. Check out the other content on there. And we'd appreciate a review on iTunes if you got the time. That's about it. I think that pretty much covers it. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, and I want to add, I want to add that I'm going to be contributing to houseofgeekery.com. I mentioned it before, but I think my first post is going to post relatively soon by the time this drops. So be on the lookout for that. I'll reblog it and I'll tweet about it. So yeah.
You're getting too good for us, man.
Yeah,
I am. I'm writing this brand up to bigger and better things.
Saving all your best stuff for the other website.
right.
Exactly.
And then you're going to leave us, and it's just going to be the Mike and Tiny podcast.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, speaking of which, we need to talk to you, Matt.
Uh-oh.
Thank you for listening, everybody.
Thanks, guys.